Hey there, and welcome back once again. As always, thank you for being here and for being such a proactive parent and everything you're doing for your child with autism or children in general. But with autism, I know those challenges personally, and it can be really, really tough and isolating. I'm here to support you in many ways, and one of the ways that I can do this is through these free episodes, through my podcast. This one is episode number 204, and I will link to it in the show notes. But it is about what you need to know about toxins during pregnancy. Now, a lot of people don't realize that their body has already got some toxins and pathogens, which I'm going to leave the pathogens for another episode. But we pass on a lot of things in utero to our babies. And so they're actually born with a lot of toxicity. But a lot of it can be prevented to some degree. We can make it better. And one of those things is to basically detoxify and do clean up your diet and do all of these healthy things before we ever conceive. But it's important to understand that some of the risks are there and what we have found. And I'm going to just cite from some studies because over 300 chemicals have been found in babies' cord blood. So this means that when they're born, just in their cord, in their placenta, it has been found to have over 300 toxic chemicals in that. So this is really, really important information for you as a parent. So the birth of our baby is this, of course, miraculous moment. We're pregnant, we're happy, we can't wait to have our child, and we all expect everything to be good. And sometimes things go askew and aren't what we expected. Because recent research has shed this light on this really startling concern. Over 300 chemicals, that's a lot. This discovery highlights the fact that exposure to these harmful chemicals begins much earlier than most people think and really happens already in the womb. From conception through pregnancy, these toxins can pass from the mother to the baby. So the fetus, the unborn child, is actually acting as somewhat of a conduit for the body to detoxify into. So it raises those concerns about their potential long-term effects on the child development and their health. So this episode is going to delve into the sources of these chemicals and their potential effects on the baby and how we can reduce our exposure to them. So the shocking truth is what is in cord blood. Let's start with cord blood is a rich source of stem cells. And I'll link to an episode I did on stem cells. But stem cells basically help to regulate the immune system, and their response is shown in blood screening, can be indicators of underlying co-infections of autism, such as Lyme, mold, and strep. These infections are also undetected in many traditional blood tests. You've heard me, if you've been following me for a while, you've heard me talk about most of these tests are unreliable. So if you test for them and the test comes up negative and you think, oh, well, my child doesn't have that, so we don't have to work on that. And then your child plateaus on the autism recovery journey, doesn't get better, and you're trying to figure out why. And a lot of the time, it can have a lot to do with the fact that these toxins and co-infections actually do exist. You just didn't know they were there. If they were treated improperly. And I will gladly, in my show notes, give you a link to my free workshop where you can learn the 4 stages of what actually all needs to happen and how I can walk you through that process, because I know that there's a lot of education here. And I want my 18 years of autism research to come to you so that you can cut down your time and expense, because there's so much to understand here, that these co-infections are also passed in utero. But again, I'm going to leave the pathogens for another episode. So these things, again, they're not usually detected. So many times we think, oh, well, the child doesn't have them, so we don't do anything about it. Or practitioners are very commonly treating them improperly. Many are antibiotic resistant, or certain heavy metal detoxification processes they use with the drugs like DMSA will not only take the good minerals like magnesium and calcium from your child's body because they're not discriminatory, but they also will allow for toxins to reabsorb into your child's bloodstream as they're being excreted. So again, I walk through these steps and what I use and just information for you to educate you in my free workshop, which I will link to in the show notes, which will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/204 for episode 204 here. Studies including the Environmental Working Group investigation have found traces of heavy metals, flame retardants, pesticides, and industrial compounds in the umbilical cords of newborns. Out of the 100 chemicals detected, some of these include lead, a potent neurotoxin, which is linked to developmental delays and cognitive issues, and also a lot of aggression issues in children or people in general. Mercury, another heavy metal toxin, is found in fish and a lot of industrial pollutants, so it can affect brain development as well. And the gut. A lot of these things also keep the gut ill, which is why you might have your child on a good diet and you're finding that they're really not seeming to get that much better. So again, if you haven't got my free food guide, I will also lead to it in the show notes for you. Bisphenol A, BPA, used in plastics. Now there's tons of plastics being found in our blood, which is really, really horrible. These plastic BPA has been associated with hormone disruption and many, many more things. Phthalates, common in plastics and personal care products, which can disrupt the endocrine system. You really have to read your labels. No sodium lauryl sulfate, no phthalates. And I'm going to link to these things in the show notes because phthalate starts with a PTH. So you might wonder if it's the same word I'm talking about, the way it's spelled. Polybrominated diphenyl ethers, PBDEs. You're going to see PBDEs. No, it should say no PBDEs. Well, that is also something that is in flame retardants, which they also put on children's clothing. So that is also something your child has then got on their skin from their clothing all night long. These chemicals can harm the brain and cause thyroid issues as well. The fact that these chemicals are present in cord blood is really alarming because it indicates that a fetus is exposed to these substances during really critical periods of development. Now, I've also talked about in the past in my background being craniosacral therapy, I study the brain, and the greatest time period for a brain to develop is the last trimester of pregnancy, the third trimester, and the first year after birth. So really the first couple of years after birth. But these are really, really heightened times. So these chemicals are directly affecting our children's brain in those periods of time when it's developing. How do chemicals reach the fetus? During pregnancy, the placenta acts as a barrier, providing oxygen and nutrients to the fetus while filtering out certain harmful substances. However, that barrier is not foolproof, and many chemicals can pass right through the placenta, right through the umbilical cord, enter the baby's bloodstream, and then the baby gets that toxic exposure and can affect their brain development, their body's development, their internal organs. And so some of these common sources of chemical exposure are air pollution, particulate matter from car exhaust, industrial pollutants, and indoor air quality can affect both the mother and the baby. Drinking water contaminants. I've done a lot of episodes on water, and I will link to some in the show notes. Pesticides, glyphosate, another one I've done big episodes on, and heavy metals, plastics, and many more are in our water supply we ingest daily. Food contaminants, pesticides on fruits and vegetables, mercury in fish, and additives in processed foods can all introduce toxins into the body. Personal care products, again, watch the shampoos, the lotions, anything, any cosmetic you put on your body. Those things absorb through our skin within seconds into our bloodstream. It's very, very quickly absorbed. So really make sure that you're paying attention to that. For, again, we mentioned some before, but also parabens and again, phthalates. Household chemicals, cleaning supplies, the cleaning agents, the laundry detergent you use, the things you use in and around your home, you are inhaling. Air fresheners that people plug in, they're known to cause cancer, many of them, the commercial ones. Paints, cleaning supplies, furniture even can emit volatile organic compounds, or called VOCs. You'll see VOCs. That can be harmful definitely during pregnancy. Effects of chemical exposure in babies. Research is ongoing, but we know that exposure to certain chemicals during pregnancy can have a range of adverse effects on the developing baby. This is not new news to us, but I want you to understand, because there are a lot of things that people just don't realize that are in and around their home or use daily, in these cleaning agents and household supplies that could be very, very toxic to you and your family. Some of these adverse effects will include neurodevelopmental issues. Lead, mercury, and other toxins have been linked to delayed cognitive development, lower IQ, anger and aggression issues, hormonal disruptions. Chemicals like BPA and phthalates can interfere with the endocrine system, potentially affecting our reproductive health later in life. And hormones have everything to do with sleep and our body's chemicals, even to help us calm down. Respiratory issues of all kind, exposure to air pollutants and mold, of course, has been linked to asthma and other respiratory conditions in children. Preterm birth and low birth weight. Certain toxins like tobacco smoke and pesticides have been associated with premature delivery and lower birth weight, which can impact a child's long-term health. Reducing chemical exposure during pregnancy. Now, this is really important. While it's impossible to eliminate all chemical exposure, right? We don't want to drive ourselves crazy, but there are ways to minimize it and protect both mother and the baby, because you want to protect yourself as well. Okay, first of all, eat organic food. Okay, organic produce is grown without synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, and it reduces your exposure to the harmful chemicals. Choose non-toxic personal care products. Opt for ones that are free from, again, phthalates, parabens, sodium lauryl sulfate, and other harmful chemicals. Look for clean beauty, natural, and it might say even, free of parabens and phthalates, things like that. Your local health food store is a better option if you're not sure where to go, but make sure that, again, they have good practices of what they purchase. Filter your water, drinking water, with a high quality water filter. And I will link again to one that an interview I did with a water expert, and the quality water filter that I linked to, which can actually reduce your exposure to contaminants like lead, chlorine, and other industrial chemicals. There are so many chemicals in water now, in tap water. It is not safe, and most of the filters that are out there are inadequate. So you need to use a very, very high quality water filter, and I do link to one in the show notes for you. Avoid processed foods. Just because it's gluten-free and casein-free does not mean it's good for you. Again, get my free food guide to learn what the top 7 foods are to eliminate. Processed foods can contain additives, preservatives, and BPA from packaging. So you want to eat fresh, whole foods, which are a much, much better option. Improve indoor air quality. You can get a true, and it should say true, TRUE, a true HEPA filter. Run it in your home 24/7. Keep your home well ventilated. Avoid using toxic cleaning supplies. Again, opt for eco-friendly and non-toxic alternatives. Limit fish consumption. While fish is a good source of omega-3s and important, certain types of fish like swordfish and king mackerel and ahi tuna, think the larger the fish, the more chemicals there are. So you want to think smaller fish. Better choices are things like salmon or even sardines. The importance of education and advocacy. The findings about chemicals in cord blood underscore the need for greater awareness and stronger regulations around these. Governments and organizations must work together to limit the use of harmful chemicals in consumer products and industrial processes. And I've done shows in the past episodes on some of the chemicals found in baby foods, some found in school foods at school. So in schools are feeding to your kids. So those are really important to understand too. Better off to send your child to school with a homemade healthy lunch. Expecting parents can also advocate for stricter environmental laws, support research in the health effects of chemicals, and push for clearer labeling on products. One thing a lot of people don't think about as well that is very, very important today, especially with all of it around us, is electromagnetic field pollution. And I will link to in the show notes a way that you can naturally harmonize these dangers from the ones. It's a very, very simple tool to use. And I'll link to that information for you in the show notes as well. But you want to protect yourself from electromagnetic field pollution. Right now, a good thing to do at home is to unplug your Wi-Fi and your router at night when you're sleeping so it's not running. Final thoughts, again, pregnancy is a time of joy and anticipation, but it's also a time to be vigilant about environmental exposures. And this discovery of over 300 chemicals in cord blood and the placenta is really a wake-up call. And all of us need to pay closer attention to the toxins that we're exposed to every day, because our children are, even after birth, maybe they were born with toxicity, now they still have a lot of toxic exposure. Again, I can walk you through safe natural detoxification processes. I'll link to my free workshop webinar where I walk through the 4 stages to naturally recover from the symptoms of autism. And there are things basically that everyone, I think, should be doing all the time anyway, especially you as a parent. The whole family needs to get healthy. If you're thinking about conceiving again and having another child, you want to make sure your body is as clean as possible prior to pregnancy and then during pregnancy, again, keeping it that way. By making these informed choices, reducing chemical exposure, and advocating for a much healthier environment, we can all protect the next generation, because these are our future of children, generation, from harmful effects before they even take their first breath. If you're expecting or planning to conceive, now is the time to make these changes in your lifestyle that will protect your baby's health both before and after birth. Every small change makes a big difference. So no matter how small you think something you're doing that is improving your health or your child's health is, no matter what step you're taking, it's a step in the right direction, and anything matters. Everything matters. Today's show notes will be for you at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/204. So you can get to any of the links that I mentioned that I would be linking to in those show notes. And I hope this has been helpful for you. It's very important to understand these toxins and this exposure that we have daily to keep our own longevity, our own health, keep our brain as sharp as possible as we age, but also to clean our bodies up before conception and then during, while after we've conceived, keeping the baby as healthy as possible before birth, and then cleaning the child up even after birth from toxic chemical exposure they likely had. So again, the show notes will be for you there. For the resources I have to help you will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/204. I hope this has been helpful for you. Please share this with anybody that you know who might be able to benefit from it. Leave me a comment. I'm happy to reply, share it with people. So this is something that we need to make sure that everybody knows about to protect our future generations. And again, as always, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next time.